Hey students, these are the notes, section 8.2. These are special right triangles. We are going to be looking at 45, 45. It should, this is a typo. Good thing I don't make these up. That should say 90. Boy, that threw me off. 45, 45, 90 special right triangles, and then 30, 60, 90. You do have some setups that you do need to memorize. Okay, and then there's going to be lots of algebra with these problems, lots of using our properties of the radicals to get our answers. All right, so first of all, let's look at 45, 45, 90 triangle. In this triangle, you will always let the legs be represented by x. Okay, and then the hypotenuse is always represented by x radical 2. So what happens is when we have these angles equal, it makes the legs equal, and it makes the hypotenuse always have the ratio of x radical 2 to the other sides, which is kind of a neat property. So the legs are going to be represented by x. The hypotenuse is x radical 2. Okay, notice that the legs of a 45, 45, 90 triangle are always congruent. So this is an isosceles right triangle. Isosceles right triangle. Isosceles right triangles show up in a square. So the ACT loves to throw a square into the picture and then have you deal with 45, 45, 90 triangles. Other things that could happen is I could have a 45, 45, 90 triangle can show up in lots of places. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to start off by just looking at some basic problems, and then we're going to show you how to actually solve the triangle. Okay, so get a little bit closer. There we go. All right, so this is what we always want you to do. When you see a 45, 45, 90 triangle, you know these are going to be represented by x. I know right away this is going to be 8 because it has to be the same as the leg over here. And then this is going to be represented by x radical 2. So that means whatever x is, if x is 8, I'm going to put an 8 right there. And so my answer for y is simply 8 radical 2. Now that's pretty basic because they gave you the x. If they didn't give you the x and they gave you something else, then you have a little bit of figuring to do. All right, so number 2, I know that y is going to be 25. Y is 25. And then this is going to be 25 radical 2. 25 radical 2. Get used to seeing that. X radical 2. X. Okay, get used to seeing that. So now this is where we have to do a little bit of work. This is represented by x radical 2, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, where's the radical 2? Well, we have to set it equivalent to be able to get the, remember, it's all about the ratios of the legs to the hypotenuse is x to x radical 2. So, and notice I don't have either one of these. So we're going to have to do a little bit of work. This is where the memorization comes in. You need to know that this is represented by x radical 2. So all we have to do is make an equation. X radical 2 equals 19. How do I get x by itself? We divide by radical 2. Divide by radical 2. Here's where everything comes together. Remember how we learned how to get the radical off of the denominator, called rationalizing the denominator? We multiply by square root of 2 over square root of 2. And that equals 19 square root of 2 over 2. Nothing reduces. That is my answer. Okay. So that is my answer for x, because we had set x radical 2 equals to 19, and we solved it for x. So x is 19 radical 2 over 2. I know that's a little crazy. X is 19 radical 2 over 2. So that means this value is 19 radical 2 over 2. and this value is 19 radical 2 over 2. You will get some crazy answers. Okay? All right. We are going to get lots of practice. Trust me. Let's come over here and let's find problem number 10. Okay, so this is what we do. I know this is represented by x radical 2. This is represented by x, and this is represented by x. Those are my ratios. The only place I have numbers is right here. So this is where I'm going to set my equation up. And I'm going to say x radical 2 equals 28. Whatever's there is what you put that equal to. We're going to solve for x. When I solve for x, that gives me the answer for this one, and it gives me the answer for this one. So I'm going to divide by radical 2, because that's how I get the x by itself. X equals 28 over radical 2, so we're going to multiply by radical 2 over radical 2. So that is 28 radical 2 over 2, remember? And then we can simplify here to get 14 radical 2. So that means my answer for x is 14 radical 2. My answer for y is 14 radical 2. Once you learn how to do this, it is going to be super easy to remember what to do, because once you get used to doing it, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, let's do another problem. So it looks like number 12 is one that we can do. Okay, this time, this is represented by x radical 2. This is represented by x. This is represented by x. So in my problem, x is 4. X equals 4 in my ratios. So x is 4. And so that means whatever x is, I'm going to put it right here. There's no work to do when they give you the x. My answer for y is 4 radical 2. There was no work to do. No work to do at all, because whatever number is here is the number that goes there. This is represented by x, x, x radical 2. 7, 7, 7 radical 2. 12, 12, 12 radical 2. 5, 5, 5 radical 2. Okay? It's just that when they give you that hypotenuse as another number, that's when you have to do a little bit of work. Okay? This is your x. By the way, if you wanted to check this number would go right here. What is 14 radical 2 times radical 2? 14 times 2, which is 28. That should make sense to you. Okay? All right, number 15. So this is going to be represented by x, x, x radical 2. Now look, they made this easy for us. It's already in the form x radical 2, so I know x is going to be 9. So this answer is going to be 9, and this answer is going to be 9. That's another thing that can happen on these problems. All right. Okay, number 17. This is represented by x. This is represented by x. This is represented by x radical 2. So now we have to make an equation. X radical 2 equals radical 10, square root of 10. So I need to divide by square root of 2, divide by square root of 2. Remember, if they're both underneath the radical, you can simplify. So that's going to be square root of 5. So that means x is the square root of 5. That means this answer is the square root of 5, and this answer is the square root of 5. Anything goes with our radicals. Anything that I have taught you can work out with what we've done. Okay, we are going to jump into these problems in just a minute. Let's go to the 30, 60, 90. All right, the 30, 60, 90 has three sides that you have to remember. The shorter leg is represented by x. The longer leg is represented by x radical 3. I'm going to tell you how to remember that. And then the hypotenuse is represented by 2x. Okay, how do I remember this from this? All right, this is how I remember this. There are two legs that are the same. There are two legs that are the same. Okay, there are two legs that are the same. So that's how I remember x radical 2. X radical 2. For this one, there are three different measurements on the legs, on the lengths, okay, of the triangle. The shorter leg is always opposite the 30-degree angle, and the longer leg is always opposite the 60-degree angle. I'm going to show you in that picture as well. All right, so easy way to remember, x radical 3, because there's three different lengths. You just memorize it, okay? All right, so in my picture, the shorter leg, you have to pay attention. The shorter leg is across from the 30-degree angle. So that is going to be represented by x. The longer leg is across from the 60-degree angle, and the hypotenuse is 2x. We're still going to do the same thing. We're going to set up our problem, and we're going to make an equation. Okay, so this is, if there's a 60, there's a 30. Okay, so this is my shorter leg. This is represented by x. This is my longer leg, represented by x radical 3. And this is my hypotenuse, represented by 2x. Where am I going to get my equation from? Right here. It tells me x equals 5. Now, I know there's a lot of confusion with the x's in the problem. If you wanted to change this to a radical 3 and 2a, so you can keep track of that, because your answers are where the x and the y are located, not this x. So don't get confused with that. I know it's a little bit confusing with all the x's. Okay, so now, since I have x equals 5, I can put that 5 right here. This answer is 5 radical 3. And I can put the x right here, and this answer is 10. We have that answer. All right, number 5. This is my shorter leg. That is represented by x. This is my 60, and my longer leg. This is represented by x radical 3. Maybe if you circled those, it would help keep them separate. And this is my hypotenuse, represented by 2x. Where is my algebra going to come from? Right here. So they're telling me x is 14. So this answer is 14 radical 3. 14 radical 3. This answer is 2 times x, 2x, which is 28. Actually not too difficult. Okay, so this is my 30. This is represented by x. This is my 60, represented by x radical 3. This is my hypotenuse, represented by 2x. Where is my algebra going to come from? Right here. 2x equals 32. So x equals 16. So now I go back here and here, and I put in the 16. This answer is 16. This answer is 16 radical 3. All right, next problem. Let's see. Okay, this is my 60. So this is represented, this is my 30. Okay, so this is represented by x. This is represented by x radical 3. This is represented by 2x. So my algebra is going to come from here. 2x equals 46. So x equals 23. Don't put that answer here. Okay, look up here. Okay, so this answer is 23. That is represented by y. This answer is 23 radical 3. That's represented by x. Catch it on? All right, next problem. Now we're going to get a little different. So this is my 60. This is my 30. This is represented by x. This is represented by x radical 3. That's where my algebra is going to be. This is represented by 2x. Okay, so we're going to make our algebra happen right here. X radical 3 equals 20. Divide by radical 3. X equals, we are going to multiply by radical 3 over radical 3, which is 20 radical 3 over 3. See it? 20 radical 3 over 3. Now where does that go? Right here. That is the y. Okay, 20 radical 3 over 3. Okay, so to get the answer for x, I need to take my value and multiply it times 2. Remember, when you multiply by 2, you're multiplying this number here. So that is going to be 40 radical 3 over 3. 40 radical 3 over 3. Okay, number 9. Let's set up. This is my representation of x. This is my x. Oh, this one's easy. And this is represented by 2x. Okay, so this one, x is 9. Simple. X is 9. X equals 9. Really what you're doing is you're saying x radical 3 equals 9 radical 3. If you divide by radical 3, it disappears, so you get x equals 9. So this answer is 9. This answer is 18. Okay. So why don't you do number 11? I'm going to ask you a question about it. Go ahead and do number 11. All right, there you go. So in my problem, 30's up here, 60's over here. This is my short leg, so that is represented by x. This is my long leg, represented by x radical 3. That's my hypotenuse, represented by 2x. That's where my algebra came from. X is 8, so that answer is 8. That answer is 8 radical 3. You catching on? All right, let's do number 14. Okay. So this is my 30, so this is my short leg represented by x. This is 60, so that means this is my long leg represented by x radical 3. And then this is my hypotenuse represented by 2x. This is where my algebra is going to be. Super easy problem. X radical 3 equals 15 radical 3. X is 15. So that means this answer here is 15. This answer here is 30. All right, let's do number 16. This is my 60. This is my 30. So this is represented by x. This is represented by x radical 3. This is represented by 2x. I think it's helping to circle those. Where's my algebra coming from? Right here. So we've got x radical 3 equals 6. Divide by radical 3. Multiply by radical 3 over radical 3. X equals 6 radical 3 over 3. And then you can reduce. So that gives us, I'll write it over here, x equals 2 radical 3. Did you follow all that? Okay, so now let's put it where it goes. 2 radical 3 goes here. That's the answer for y. And then up here, 2 times that answer is 4 radical 3. All right, I need to ask you another question. So doing these problems that are together, they are not any harder. You just have to start with one problem, get the answer, and use that answer to help you get the other problem. So no big deal. You can start sometimes in the 30-60. As long as you're given one side, you can start in that triangle as long as you're given one side. So I cannot start over here in the 45 because I don't have one side given to me. So you need to start where you are given a side. So what I would do on these problems is highlight where you can start. And then if it helps you, cover up the rest of that problem, because if you guys just said, oh, all of this is easy, this is the same, it's two problems in one. Okay, so I'm going to do one, and then you're going to do one, and then we'll be finished. Okay, anything goes with the radicals. You've learned what you need to know about the radicals. You just have to work out that math. Okay, this is my 30. This is my 60. So we don't have to put all of the ratio. Well, yeah, we do, because we need to get this length here to help us in the other triangle. So we're going to put all of the ratios. This is represented by x, which is kind of nice. This is represented by x radical 3, and this is represented by 2x. So that means x is 9. This length right here is 9 radical 3. We'll write that down in just a minute. The length x is 9, so this is 18. So z is 18. We got that far. All right, so the 9 radical 3 goes here. And now we're going to look at the 45-45. Remember the 45-45-90 triangle. X is represented here. Circle these. Okay, X is represented here. And then up here, this is represented by, what was it, x radical 2, yeah. Okay, so x radical 2 represents that piece right there. We're going to have a little bit of work to do. So we're going to say x radical 2 equals 9 radical 3. Well, how do I get that x by itself? Okay. Make sure I got this right so far. All right, so we're going to divide by radical 2. Which means, now that that's gone, I have to multiply by radical 2 over radical 2. You guys might want to have a piece of notebook paper out while you're doing your worksheet. Just depends on if you can squeeze all this work in. This is going to be 9 radical 6 over 2. 9 radical 6 over 2. Well, where is that going? Okay, that represents x and x, so that's going in these blanks here. 9 radical 6 over 2. 9 radical 6 over 2. 9 radical 6 over 2. All right, we're almost done. I want you to do number 20 completely. I'm going to ask you 3 questions in a row. And it looks like, if you want to follow the order that I'm going to go in, because this is the number that I'm given, I'm going to find x first, and then I'm going to get the answer for y, and then I'm going to get the answer for z. Okay? So go ahead and get all 3 of those answers, and then if you're happy with that, we can save some of these other problems maybe to do in class for practice. Okay, go ahead and find x, y, and z, and I will come back and do one step at a time. All right, the first part of it, this is a 45-45-90 triangle. So it is x radical 2. Because I had the 32, that is represented by x. So this answer here is 32 radical 2. 32 radical 2. 32 square root of 2. Also 32, remember the legs are equal. So now I'm going to use the 32 to get into this 30, 60, 90 triangle. So the next answer I'm going to get is y. Go ahead and find the answer for y. Okay, next answer was 16 radical 3. I think it really helps when you have these mixed problems. If you cover up the other part, it gives you places to write, just like I was showing you all of the writing up here. So if you do that, that's perfectly fine. I have loads of Post-it notes. All you have to do is ask me for one, and then you can keep using the edges until it's used up. Okay, so this is my 30. So it's x radical 3, 2x. This is where my algebra came from. So I know 2x equals 32, so that means x equals 16. So this answer here was 16 radical 3. And then to save you, I'm not going to ask you the other one because it's super easy. That answer is 16. Okay. All right, let's take a peek. I think I might save a question, like maybe we'll do this one in class as a warm-up to refresh your memory on what the video notes were over. Okay, so I think we're going to be done. You only had 3 questions. I know. I hope you got them right. But they should have been easy enough for you to be able to get right. But I think we've done enough of these that you've got the idea. Okay, make sure you know the ratios for 45, 45, 90, x radical 2, for 30, 60, 90, x radical 3, 2x. You have to memorize those. And I hope you're memorizing your triples. Thank you.